Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Kesubos Lamed Zayin. We are holding on the very last line of Lamed Vav Amud Beis. In the Mishnah we had Shitas Rabbi Yehuda, who maintains that even an Isha who returns from captivity is still deemed to have retained her original status. As the Gemara refers to it, Biktushasa Kaima, she maintains her Kedusha. Any concerns about others interacting with her, although a concern, but as long as it's unconfirmed, we don't draw any conclusions. She retains her original status. She's deemed a Besula, she can marry a Kohen. If she is from a Kohen family, perhaps she can eat the Truma, etc. Says the Gemara, Rami Lei, Rav Papa bar Shmuel Rav Yosef. So you answer Rav Yosef a question. V'sav Rabbi Yehuda. Is that so? That according to Rabbi Yehuda, Bigdu Shaso Kaimo, a Shivuya, an Isha who was captured and returns from that state, is considered to have retained her Kedusha, to have retained her status. And we don't conclude that she must have interacted with the captors. V'atanya, listen to this brisa. Hagiyeris, an Isha who converts, who becomes a Giyeris. Shenes Gaira. After she converted, what happens? She sees Dam Nida. V'rasa Dam. Now, as we will learn Be'ezus Hashem in Mesechas Nida, the Chachamim who mesaken et hakana called Me'es La'is. You see, technically, as soon as the Dam Nidois flows out of the Beis HaRechem, as soon as it falls into the canal on its way out, that triggers Tumah upon the Isha. And therefore, when the Isha sees Dam today, there is a concern that perhaps the flow had already begun within the last, say, 24 hours. And therefore we say, anything she had come into contact with, any Truma, etc., which she touched within the last 24 hours prior to experiencing the Dam Nida, is considered Tamei Misafik. Now, we know that an Isha who is a non-Jew, a Canaanis, her Dam is not Metame. Tumas Nida is unique to a Yisraelis. So now we have a Giyeris who is Toivel, and a couple hours later she sees Dam. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Daya Shata, sufficient that we apply Tumah from now on. Going forward, we don't apply retroactive Tumah in this case. Why? So Rashi explains. Firstly, even if the Dam had begun flowing when she was still in her pre-conversion state, when she was still a guy, there's no Tumah. Now, what if it started flowing as soon as she was Toivel and became a Jew? So why don't we apply Tumah, going back to the moment of Tevilah until now? And Rashi says an interesting teretz. It's either a 24-hour unit or nothing. This new takana of Me'es La'is is a retroactive Tumah going back 24 hours. In this case, you can't go back that far. Why? 24 hours ago, she was still a non-Jew. To apply a partial Tumah of Me'es La'is, go back only from the moment of Tevilah until now, that we don't do. That's Rabbi Yehuda's sheet. Rabbi Yossi disagrees. He says we can have a partial takana. Rabbi Yossi Omer Hari K'chol Anoshim. We treat her like any other Jewish woman, Metame Me'es La'is, and therefore she's Metame going back 24 hours, or from one examination to the other, meaning if she had checked within the last 24 hours. So the Tumah only goes back to that moment when she concluded that examination, and it goes until now. So that's the first halacha, not really relevant to our sugya, but the second halacha is. Continues the brisa. You have a Giyeris. She would like to marry a Jew. She must wait that 3-month wait period. Why? To determine whether she's expecting. From an experience that she may have had before she converted. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. We want to be mavchin, Rashi says. We want to separate between the zera of kedusha and zera of non-kedusha. Rabbi Yesi mater le'ares v'lenasa miyad. He allows this geyeris to engage and marry right away. And the Gemara later will go into the reason for Rabbi Yesi's heter. In any case, clearly, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we are concerned that an Isha comes and joins the community after having been a guy. There's a real concern that perhaps she's already expecting because of her experience in that environment prior to Gerus. Apparently, an Isha who is present in that environment is presumed to have been involved with men. And here in the Mishnah we say that according to Rabbi Yehuda, a Jewish woman taken captive, a shvuya, is presumed to be safe. Answers the Gemara. What's the connection? Amalei, Rabbi Yosef responds, Giyeris, ashvuya karamis? Do you mean to ask from a Giyeris? Maybe she was married legitimately before she converted. You're asking on a shvuya? A Jewish woman taken captive? Big difference, huge difference. Giyeris le minter nafsh. A Giyeris doesn't guard herself against involvement with men. Why should she? She's a guy. Shvuya minter nafsha, but a Jewish woman who's taken captive, of course she would look after herself and keep herself away from the goyim. And that is Rabbi Yehuda's reason. V'rami shvuya ashvuya. But now here comes a kasha, a contradiction within the shvuya case itself. And now Mishnah we learn that according to Rabbi Yehuda, a shvuya is deemed safe. And the next brisa we seem to say otherwise. The Sanya, brisa says hagiyeris, v'ashvuya, v'ashifcha. So a Goyish woman became a giyeris, or a Jewish woman returns from captivity, or a maidservant. In all these cases, if they join the community, sheniftu, they were redeemed. This is referring to the captive woman. Shenizgaira, they converted. V'shenish tachruru, referring to a maidservant who was released from slavery. Yiseiras al b'nois sholosh shanim yabecha. They came back past 3 years and a day, in which case they are susceptible to interaction with a man. They are already of age. If they would like to marry, they must wait 3 months to discern that they are no longer expecting. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yesi mater la'oris v'l'nasa miyad, according to Rabbi Yesi, go and marry right away. Then again we'll explain why there's no need to wait 3 months according to Rabbi Yesi. Bottom line, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we are concerned that perhaps she's already expecting, and we're speaking about a shivuya. And in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda maintains a shvuya is deemed safe. Ishtik, Rabbi Yosef remained silent. No response. Amalei. So Rabbi Yosef turns to the man Amar who asked him the question, who was Rav Papa bar Shmuel. Midi shmiya lechabaha. Perhaps have you heard anything regarding this topic? Amar lei. So he responded, yes, indeed. Achi Amar Rav Sheshes. I'll give you a teretz in the name of Rav Sheshes. The reason why Rabbi Yehuda is concerned and must make her wait 3 months is not due to some abstract suspicion. We have testimony that she was involved with a man, and therefore she must wait 3 months to confirm whether or not she's expecting. If that's the case, that it's a confirmed fact, it's not just a theory. My time with Rabbi Yossi. Why would Rabbi Yossi just ignore that and allow her to marry right away? Amar Rabba Kosav Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is of the opinion that Isha Mezana, an Isha who is involved in inappropriate interactions, Mishameshes B'moich. She interacts using some sort of contraceptive, some sort of barrier, shalitas aber, to avoid pregnancy. Rashi says she takes a moich, some sort of wad, some cotton or whatever, and extracts the zera. And therefore there's no concern about expectancy. Asks the Gemara. That works for a geyeris. Bishlemi geyeris, a geyeris I can understand. Given the data the geyeris, since she has in mind, she plans on converting. She comes today. We assume this was in the works for at least a couple of months, right? Therefore, minter nafsha, certainly she guarded herself in advance of her conversion. And she applied the moich material to avoid pregnancy. Shvuya Nami, a captive woman as well, the Layada Heicha, since she doesn't really know where her captors will lead her, perhaps they'll bring her to a Jewish community for redemption, and she'll prepare herself for that eventuality and ensure that she's not muberes. This way they redeem her and perhaps marry her. So it makes sense that in these two cases, she will avoid becoming muberes, and therefore there's no need to wait 3 months. Shivcha Nami, the Shama Mipimara, a maidservant as well. Chances are she heard that her master plans on releasing her pretty soon. So from that moment onward, she'll be careful against pregnancy. So all these are anticipated developments. A geyeris, a shvuya, a shivcha. It's expected, it's anticipated. And she will guard herself accordingly. But an isha who's a shivcha, whose master happened to knock out her tooth or eye, which allows her to go free. Michael Amemar, what are you going to say in this case? It was totally unexpected, unanticipated. How could she have planned for this event? And since she was unaware of the fact that she will be released, who's to say she guarded herself against pregnancy? Perhaps he'll say, you're right, this would be different. Even according to Rabbi Yossi, called the Mamela, whenever it's a unexpected, event like the Shein V'ayin, Loi Amar Rabbi Yossi would not maintain that she is not a muberes. Is that so? Untrue. Hari anusa mafuta, Anisha, who was forced or seduced. Dimamela, this is an unexpected development, in which case she could not have anticipated, in which case chances are she did not have access to a moich to disrupt the ibur. Vitanya, what does the Brisa say? Even in this case, Rabbi Yossi is not concerned. Anusa mafuta tzrichas lahamtin gimel chadashim. Div Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda maintains an isha who's involved in oinus and pitoi experience must wait 3 months to confirm her situation. But Rabbi Yossi matter le'ores vil nasa miyad. He's not concerned. What are you going to say there? The moich factor doesn't really help us much, because as Rashi explains, she didn't know this was coming, and she didn't prepare herself accordingly, and she didn't have access to a moich at that time. Ela ma Rabba, says Rabba, unrelated to moich. Kasav Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi's reason is as follows: Isha mezana, an isha who's involved in this type of interaction, misapecha, she overturns herself after the experience, kadesh leitis aber, to avoid pregnancy. And this applies to any one of these situations. Even if she doesn't have access to some contraceptive, but she could just do misapechas, which disrupts any possible potential pregnancy. So what does Rabbi Yehuda hold? Concerned perhaps she didn't overturn herself properly, and it wasn't effective to the extent that it would disrupt the ibur, and therefore, on account of that chashash, the Chachamim maintains she has to wait 3 months to discern her situation. Okay, bottom line is, we started with a kasha, in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda maintains that a shvuya sheniftis retains her status. But, as the Gemara tells us, that applies only to a shvuya, but not a giyaris, who comes into the community today. We don't know what happened beforehand. Then we discussed the halacha of hamtanas gimel chadoshim, between experiences. According to Rabbi Yossi, in all these cases, there's no need to wait, as the Gemara concludes, because isha misapechas. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. You never know. She might have not done it properly, in which case we take that extra precaution, and she has to wait 3 months, which would allow us to discern her state. Okay, back to the Mishnah, where we learned that when a person commits an offense, which triggers a chi of misa through Bezdin, so once he faces death by Bezdin, he is potter from any monetary obligations that may have accompanied that offense. How do we know this? From a pasuk, Shenamar ve'lo yeh onish. His fellow was fighting with his friend. He hit an isha, If there's no tragedy, and if there's no misa, then he has to pay for the value of the lost pregnancy. But if there was an asain, there was death involved, there is chiyuv misa, he's patur from payment. Asks the Gemara, v'ha ma'acha nafka, this halacha, which we call kamle b'derabba minei, that we give him the most severe punishment. And that sort of includes anything less severe than that. He gets misa and not moment. Is that learned from this pasuk? Mahasam nafka. That's already been learned from the other pasuk, which we discussed a couple of days ago. Kedei rishasai. You punish him in accordance with his offense. It's a lashon yachid, a singular offense, a singular punishment. Misham risha achas at the machayva. You only hold him accountable for one aspect of the offense. You only punish him once. Rather than punishing him double, no double jeopardy. We give him one punishment and not two. So why do we need this pasuk in our Mishnah to tell us the same thing? Answer: two different contexts. Chada b'misa v'mamen, v'chada b'malkus v'mamen. Our Mishnah speaking when a person commits an offense which triggers a double liability. Misa and mammon converge. Pasuk says he gets misa and no mammon. The other pasuk, Kedei Rishasai, is in the context of malchus. When his avera generates malchus and mammon, the chiddush is we give him malchus and not mammon, and both are a chiddush. With tzricha, both are needed. Di yashmina and misa and mammon. If only our discussion of misa and mammon, I would say mishum deika ibad neshama. Giving him misa preempts any chi of mammon. Rashi says, 6 lines from the bottom. We're speaking about a very severe punishment. You're taking his life. That's sufficient. Once you take his life, that sort of includes everything. You no longer have to relate to, monetary liabilities. You've taken him completely out. You've killed him completely. That includes everything. Back to the Gemara. Maybe that applies by mis aval malchus and mammon leka ibn neshama. But when it comes to giving him malchus, you're not taking his life. It's not as severe. It's not as high standing. Perhaps this concept will not hold. Meaning, malchus and mammon are consistent with each other. They're compatible. You can give malchus and mammon. That's why we need the pasuk of Kedei Rishasa. That malchus preempts chiyuv mammon. V'yashmin and malchus and mammon. If only the other pasuk about malchus, I would say, mishum lo yichamid yisurei. After all, he didn't commit such a severe offense that created chiyuv misa. It was only something that created malchus. So perhaps, in that case, it's enough to give him one einish. Aval misa and mammon dechamid yisurei. But if he committed an aver which created misa and mammon, maybe it's such a severe offense. You can't just get away with one. We give him the misa and the mammon tzricha. Comes the second pasuk and tells us even by misa and mammon, come lebe de rabbi minei, we apply misa and he's exempt from mammon. Now this is Shittas Rabbanan. We never apply a double punishment. Ula Rab Meir, but according to Shittas Rab Meir, the Amar Leiku Mishal. We have Rab Meir a few days ago who said, no, when it comes to malchus and mammon, they're not mutually exclusive. You can give a malchus and mammon. So according to him, both psukim, whether it's the pasuk of Kedei Rishasai, instructing us to only apply one punishment, whether it's the pasuk of Vim Lo Ya'asain in our Mishnah, instructing us to apply only one punishment, both psukim are speaking about a case where misa is involved. Misa and something else converge, we only apply the misa, right? Because according to Rab Meir, malchus and mammon can go together. So both psukim are speaking about the same idea. Why the repetition? Why the duplication? Why two psukim for the same thing? Both psukim are speaking about misa. Why? Answer is chada b'misa mammon. Our pasuk avaloyeh asan anish anish is speaking about a case where a chi of misa and a chi of mammon converge. Apply the misa and not the mammon. The chada b'misa malchus. The other pasuk of Kedei Rishasai is speaking where misa and malchus converge. And the pasuk is telling us, ignore the malchus and give him the misa utzricha, and both psukim are needed. Each one has an aspect of chidush. The Yashmin and Misa Mammon. If only the pasuk about Misa Mammon, sure, over there Misa overrides the Mammon Mishum Dechada B'Gufei. Because, let's think about it. Misa and Mammon. There are two different types of punishment. Misa pertains to the person himself, and Mammon is to his possessions. So perhaps there, I can truly understand why it doesn't make sense to do both. Either you punish the person, or you penalize him financially. Mishum dechada b'gufei, Misa is the one that is applied to the person himself, v'chada b'mamayni, whereas the monetary liability applies to his money. Le'avdina, we don't do that. One to the guf and one to the mammon. It's either or. Aval v'misa malchus. But in a situation where Misa and Malchus converge, they're close enough in nature. The Idi Vidi B'Gufei, since both pertain to the person himself. Hitting the person, killing the person, maybe it's a 1-2 punch. Ema Misa Arichtahi. Perhaps let's just view it as one continuous. Misa. First you give him the Malchus, then you kill him. When the Avad Bey, and perhaps both need to be applied, comes the Pasuk and says no. You apply the Misa, and you ignore the Malchus. V'yashmin and Misa Malchus. Had the pasuk only spoken about Misa and Malchus, then when both of those converge, Misa applies not to Malchus, I would say the Tartib Gufela Avdina. Now we're going to switch around the Svar. The same Svar we're going to turn inside out. Sure, Misa and Malchus, you can't do that, because both relate to the personal aspect of the offender. The Tartib Gufela Avdina don't apply a double punishment onto the person himself. So it wouldn't make sense to do Misa and Malchus. We can truly understand why Misa is applied and we ignore the Malchus. Avol Misa or Mammon. But when it comes to Misa and Mammon converging, perhaps that is compatible. The Chada B'Gufei, the Chada B'Mammoni, since the Misa applies to the body and one applies to the money, two different aspects of penalty. Eimane Avid Bey, perhaps we should apply it. Tzricha, the Chiddush is no. So the bottom line is, when it comes to Malchus and Mammon, Rameir says both are applied. Rabbanan say only the Malchus and not the Mammon, or the Mammon and not the Malchus. By the way, that's the Machlekes Amoraim, Ula and Rabbi Yechon, as we discussed. But all agree when it comes to Misa and something else. Misa overrides everything. Whether it's Misa and Mammon, Misa and Malchus, whether it's according to Rameir or according to Rabbanan. Continues the Gemara. Now we're going to have a long list of psukim which sort of seem to be telling us the same halacha all over again. We can go through them one by one and analyze, dissect the pasuk, and see how what chiddush, what lesson is inherent in every pasuk. So let's stop. Pasuk says, a fellow is a ritzech, he murdered. He's meant to be put to death. Don't take kaifer, don't take monetary payment, which almost sounds like you would think that on top of killing him, you also take payment. Normally, why is the pasuk needed? Don't we already know that when we apply misa, we don't apply a chiv moment? Answers the Gemara, of course. That wasn't the notion. That wasn't the Havamina. The Amar Achmana, the parsuk is ruling out lo yisishkel mamoino mimade minei besiftere miktal. Oh, maybe I would think that he can pay instead of being put to death. Torah is telling you no. Lo yisishkel kaifer nefesh retzeach. Don't allow him to pay his way out of the punishment. Don't accept payment in lieu of misa. We have another pasuk which says that Reuven killed Shimon accidentally, b'shoigig. He's meant to go to the Ir Miklat, right? He's meant to run away in exile. Don't take kaifer, don't accept payment from this fellow who's meant to run away to the Ir Miklat. Lamali, what's the point of this pasuk? I shouldn't add payment to the gullus. Why would I think you apply two punishments? We already know we never double penalize a person. Same teretz as before. That is not the point of the pasuk. To add payment on top of gullus. Rather, perhaps payment would come in lieu instead of Golos. The Pasuk is telling us, don't accept payment instead of Golos. Why would we need these two psukim? First pasuk is don't accept payment instead of applying the death penalty. Second pasuk is don't accept payment instead of sending him to Golos. Why do we need both psukim? Each one has its own chiddush. Chad b'shoigig, v'chad b'mezid. One pasuk is speaking about a case where he killed b'shoigig. Don't accept payment instead of Golos. And one pasuk is b'mezid. He did it purposely. Don't accept payment instead of putting him to death. Utzrichi, and each pasuk is needed. The Yashmin and Mezid. If we only speak about the Mezid case, B'shum the Chomer Yisuri, he was involved in a very serious offense, and therefore you can't let him pay his way out of the misa. Avlo shoygig the Chomer Yisuri. But the fellow who killed him accidentally, that's not such a severe isur. Perhaps this case would be different. We allow him to pay his way out of Golos. If we only discuss shogeg, mishum deleki ibn neshama. In this case, perhaps we insist on sending him to Golos, because after all, there's no taking of life. We're not killing him. Just let him go to Golos. Don't let him get away with just paying. Aval mezid the ibn neshama. But in the case where he killed him purposely, we were going to put this murderer to death. We're going to take a life. Perhaps in this case, let's divert it. Let's commute it to monetary payment. Rashi says a lashon. Misham ibad neshama emor nishkol mamayne unekayim nefesh b'Yisrael, says Rashi. Perhaps let's maintain a nefesh. That's more important. Let's figure out an arrangement where he can sort of convert his misa into a chiyuv mammon. Tzricha, the pasuk tells us no. The only solution, the only way to address this offense is by putting him to death. We have another pasuk. Why would we need this pasuk? Pasuk which is simply telling us the same thing all over again. There's no kapara. There's no atonement. We can't address the spilled blood unless you kill the murderer, as opposed to accepting payment instead of killing him. Lamali, what's the point of this pasuk? We already know that we cannot accept payment from a murderer. Sanya, you're right. It's coming to tell us a different halacha. So they found a victim on the road, killer unknown. Halacha is the closest city brings a calf, and they behead the calf, do egla arufa, and that sort of addresses the offense for the time being. Right? So now, after they conducted this ceremony, Shimnas Arfa Egla, it's already after the fact, then they discover the killer. How do we know that we don't exempt him? Meaning, perhaps there's room to think that he already achieved kapara. Since at that time we didn't know who he was, we brought the Egla Rufa. Maybe that addresses the offense, and now that we track down the killer, he's potter. How do we know it's not so? Pasuk here is telling you, even after you were Erev the Egla, that was only sort of a standby, temporary solution. But once you find the killer, you apply Misa. That's the point of the pasuk. What about the next pasuk? You meant to cleanse the land for the innocent blood that was spilled there. What's the point of this pasuk? Lamali. What's the pasuk trying to teach us? The pasuk is teaching us as follows: we know that a murderer is put to death by way of saif, by way of a sword. How do we know that we apply the sword to his neck? The pasuk here is in the context of the Egla Rufa, right, which was beheaded. So the Torah is telling you, you're meant to apply death to a murderer in the same manner, in a similar vein, to the way they do the egla rufa. He meant to address the murderers, the offense, in similar fashion to the way they do the egla rufa. Hukshu kol shefchei damim le'egla rufa. We connect all those who spill blood to the egla rufa. Ma lahalam atzavar, just as the egla rufa is addressed at its neck. Av shefchei damim min atzavar. Likewise, the misas bezin of sayif is applied to the murderer's neck. Ima lahalam b'koifetz umi mul oirif. Well, if so, perhaps connected all the way to egla rufa, just as over there we use a large knife, and mul oirif, we chop his head off from the back of his neck, which is right beneath the back of his head, mimul oirif. Av kan b'koifetz umi mul oirif. Likewise, by a ritzeach, that's how bezin should apply the misa. Amar of Nachman, Amar Rabba Vavua, Amar Kroa, the pasuk says, Ve'ahavto l'reacha kamoicha. You should meant to love your fellow Jew as yourself, which means, although we're compelled, we must put him to death, but do it in the most efficient and speedy manner. And by the neck, it goes quicker. Brer lo misa yafa. Choose a more pleasant and more efficient way of putting him to death. We have another pasuk on our list. Kol cherem asher yachra min ha'adam lo yipada. And Rashi learns, as the Gemara figures, cherem means a person who's chayav misa. Cherem is a lashon of destruction, a fellow who's slated for death. Lo yipada, he can't be redeemed. He can't pay his way out of that einish. Lamali, what's the point of the pasuk? We already know that. Answer is, it's needed for the following halacha, a totally different type of halacha. Menayin liyetzik l'hareg. How do we know that in a case where a fellow who was condemned to misas bezin, he's on his way out to be put to death from bezin, v'amar echad erkei elai, a fellow gets up and he declares, you know what, I'm committing to donate this fellow's erech. We know there's a parsha of erechen in the Torah, which sets a set number value to each person based on his gender and age. I'm committing to give that value set forth in the Torah, the value of this person. Menayin shalei omar klum. How do we know that it's worthless? Because this fellow on his way out to Misa has no value. How do we know? Shenemar kol cherem asher yachra min ha'adam lo yipada. So a fellow who's in this state, slated for death and destruction, kol cherem, and then it says asher yachram, and Rashi learns yachram means a lashon of pidyon, a lashon of hegdish, Rashi says. So you can't attempt to apply a hegdish concept to this person on his way to Misa. Lo yipada, there's no chiyuv to follow through with that pledge. Yochel af koydem shenigmar dina came. Perhaps this applies even before the Bezdin issued their verdict. Tamar loyma, the pasuk says mina adam. The word min is telling you in some cases, loykal adam, not in every case. So after Gemar Din, he no longer has value. But before Gemar Din, he still has value, and you can relate to it, and you could obligate yourself to give that value to the Beis Hamikdash. But according to this shit, the Amar, who maintains Nerach, even after Gemar Din, Erechen still applies to this fellow. You know why? You see, when we speak about market value, this fellow has no market value. You can't possibly get any money from him. You can't sell him as a slave. He's on the way to Mis. Not so when we speak about Erechen. That's a set value, determined by the Torah. It's not dependent on market value. Dam of Ksuvin is a set amount. This gender, this age, has a very specific number affixed to him. So according to him, according to Rechanani ben Akavya, even this fellow in this sorry state here still relates to Erechen. And therefore, Haikal Cherem Ma'avedle, what does it do with this pasuk? Because according to him, Erech does apply. Miboile, look at the Sanya, it's used for the following price. Rabbi Yishmael b'noi Shobrechem Reika Eimer. This relates back to the previous sugya about the possibility of paying your way out of a punishment. So he says like this: Lefi shematzinu lemumsim b'dei shamayim. We do find that at times, when a fellow is liable to misa b'dei shamayim, Rashi says, such as where he didn't look after his ox, who gored somebody and killed him. Pasuk says, "V'gam ba'olav yumas." Even the master is held accountable by Hashem. Misa b'dei shemayim. So he's chayiv misa b'dei shemayim, but there's a way out. After all, he didn't purposely do it, and therefore he can pay a fine, so to speak. Shenoisnin mamon u'meskaper lahen. This fellow can actually pay and achieve atonement. Shenemar, the pasuk says, "Im kaifer yushas olav." So we apply a form of payment called kaifer, which is pretty much compensating for the victim. So since we find that money can play a role, when misa b'dei shemayim is involved, yochel af b'dei adam, perhaps it can play a role even when misa b'dei adam is involved. So Reuven kills Shimon directly. Perhaps he can get away by paying for it. Talmud Leimer, that's where the pasuk comes and says, no. There's no pidyon. When a person is chayav misa b'dei adam. Ve'enli ela misas chamburis. Perhaps this only applies by more severe forms of punishment. Shaloi nitna shigigosan l'kapara. In some cases, misa can be switched into a carbon. Many arayis have that. Many other averis, which carry an issa karas. Karas is only b'mezid. But if it was done b'sheigeg, one can be mechaper by bringing a chatas. But there are some unique cases which generate misa when done b'mezid, which don't have the sheigeg, carbon option to them. Rashi says, for instance, he kidnaps a Jew, or he inflicts a wound upon his father. So these are misas chamuros. There's no carbon kapara option for a sheigeg. So maybe in that case, you can't pay your way out of the misa. But misa is kalis. What about it? The lighter forms of misa? Cases where there is an option to bring a carbon if this offense was done with sheigeg. So perhaps they stand lower. And in that case, perhaps even b'mezid. There is a payment option as well. Talmud Leimar comes to pasuk and says, Kol cherem. Any type of misa. A fellow who is chayiv misa b'dei adam, there's no payment option. So we were looking to darshan something from this pasuk. We found the drasha. A person who's chayiv misa, you can't pay your way out of misa. If the misa is b'dei adam. Asks the Gemara, why do we need a pasuk for this? This idea has already been learned from a pasuk. The pasuk spoke about a fellow who killed a Ritzeach. Right? That was the first pasuk we mentioned today. First pasuk which kicked off this discussion, about 10 lines from the top. Reuben killed Shimon. He's a Ritzeach. Pasuk says, don't let him pay in lieu of Misa. Now remember, Ritzicha has two sides to it. B'mezid, he gets Misa. But if it was done b'sheigeg, there is another option. There's a kapara for a sheigeg called galus. So this type of offense, murder, carries both sides to it. Has a sheigeg kapara option as well, and still the pasuk clearly tells us there's no payment option. There you go. You don't need another pasuk of kol cherem to tell us the same thing. Haven't we already learned this concept from the pasuk that a Ritzeach can't absolve himself through payment? Ritzicha is something that has shigigas kapara, and still it doesn't work. Payment can't substitute for misa. Exactly. You can't accept payment and exempt it. Kol cherem lamali. So why do we need the next pasuk of kol cherem to tell us the same exact halach? Amar Rabbi Chama, Amar Rami Bar Chama Istrich. We do need the second pasuk as well. Perhaps I would say, when the pasuk says you can't accept payment for a Ritzeach, was speaking heicha de harga derech aliyah, when he killed him using an upward motion, upward swoop. Shaloi nitna shigigasa lekapara. We discussed this a couple of days ago that there's a halacha, and that if a person kills b'shogeg, he goes to gullus. That's only if it was done under very specific circumstances. One of them being derech yirida. Pasuk says, "Vayapil olav vayamis." He fell on him. He hit him using a downward swoop, as we discussed in Maseches Makkos, right? So, if he killed him derech aliyah, hitting him upward, in that case, lo nitna shigigasa lekapara. If that would have been done b'shogeg, there's no kapara, there's no gullus. So in that type of situation, where there is no kapara shogeg option, that is very severe. And perhaps over there, you can't accept payment instead of putting him to death when he did it b'mezid. Aval harga derech yirida, but let's say he would have killed him derech yirida in a manner where, if it would have been b'shogeg, the nitna shigigasa lekapara, the inadvertency does have a kapara option, i.e. gullus. So perhaps this type of circumstance is not as severe, because it has that gullus option to it, if it was done b'shogeg. So perhaps even if it was done b'mezid purposely, perhaps you can accept payment instead of putting him to death, and that's what I need the pasuk of Kol Chayrim to tell you otherwise. Okay, let's do a quick recap. We started with Rabbi Yehuda's Chiddush, in contrast to Shitas Chachamim, that an Isha who was captive, taken into captivity, is considered, her status is questionable. We question her Basulim status, etc., etc. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees. Unless it's confirmed, you can't draw conclusions. Bikdu Shasa Kaima. But of course, a Geyeris is an entirely different story, and there we're concerned about interactions, and she has to wait 3 months before she chooses to marry into the community. Rabbi Yisrael disagrees entirely. He says, any type of situation, like a Geyeris, a Shvuya, a Shifcha, a Nusa Mafuta, there's no need to wait 3 months, because Isha is Misapeches, Kadesh Leitis Upper. Rabbi Yisrael says, B'choshesh, maybe she didn't do it effectively. Okay. What about Kimli Midirabba Minei? Person doesn't have Avera, which generates 2 Einshin. Rabbi Meir says, Malchus and Mammon can go together. Rabbanan disagree. We never apply a double punishment, whether it's Malchus and Mammon, and whether it's Misa and Mammon, or Misa and Malchus. The latter of these, the latter to the Misa and Mammon and Misa and Malchus, even Rabbi Meir agrees to. We have psukim for everything. That Misa overshadows any other possible punishment. And then we ended with a list of psukim, many of them teaching us that we cannot accept payment instead of a punishment, whether it's Misa, whether it's Gullus, whether it's even a Misa, which is a Misa Kala, which has a Shgaga, Kapara aspect to it. We also learned about the Egla Rufa, which is not going to be Machaper if you actually find the murderer. And we discussed the sugya about Erchen, regarding a person who is Nigmar Dina Lamisa, whether you can do Erchen on him or not. All the best, Ivan Hatzlach Rabba.